before I say anything relating to what we saw last night, I do want to send a very special thank you to Brie. And if you do not know who that is, she was on the 4th annual Special Edition Storm stream a month ago on August 3rd, 2018. Go follow her on Twitter at Invisible Magic, magic with a CK at the end. I want to thank her for lending me her account for Fight TV to watch AllIn. Up to 24 hours before AllIn, I was not going to watch it. So I really do owe her the world for it. Secondly, I want everyone to understand, and I want everyone to know that I never have watched a full episode of Ring of Honor or New Japan in my life. Okay? I just want to point that out there. I probably have watched at most 45 minutes of Ring of Honor in the last 3 years. I maybe have seen 15 minutes of a New Japan Pro Wrestling match this year alone. Also, I had no idea who half of the guys on the card were. I really didn't. I was not familiar with Matt Cross. I had no idea that Maxwell or Jacobs Freeman even existed. I didn't even know there was a guy named Rey Fenix or Bandido. I've never even heard of that name. I've never seen a Flip Gordon match. I've heard of Jay Lethal, but I haven't watched anything related to him other than that little segment he had with Ric Flair on TNA. But for someone who's very unfamiliar with Ring of Honor and New Japan, like I'm not subscribed to either. I don't have a television channel or a website that allows me to go on and watch them. I watch WWE specifically because it's very convenient for me, and I've been watching it since I was 9 years old. But for a guy who's so unfamiliar with the whole Ring of Honor New Japan product as a whole, I can honestly say that this was one of the most refreshing and entertaining wrestling shows that I've seen. This was probably one of the best shows of the year in professional wrestling in general. And I think it's going to really go down as one show that really changed the course of history in more ways than one. And I'm not just saying that because that's what everyone's saying. I'm not just saying because it's cliche. I'm saying it because I really feel that way. And I really feel that once they do an AllIn 2, it's going to be even bigger. All in all, I'm not going to overhype it, and I'm not going to say it was the greatest show on earth, because that's not what a guy like me does. I'm not a guy to overhype something just because it's new and fresh. I'm going to tell you how things are match by match. I'm not going to be like everyone else who hates independent wrestling and just bashes it and trashes it. But I'm going to say that it was better than every single WWE main roster pay-per-view that has happened this year so far. Was it better than TakeOvers? I would say it was probably on par with TakeOver Philadelphia and TakeOver Chicago. But as it relates to TakeOver New Orleans and Brooklyn, no. And I'm not just saying that because I was at TakeOver Brooklyn 4. NXT has been on another level for as long as I can remember. But I would like to welcome each and every one of you to the Rewind for AllIn. I do have a few announcements to make after we get done with the matches, so stick around to the end. We're going to get right into the matches. I actually forgot that 0 Hour was taking place on WGN America, and I was actually eating dinner while the first tag team match was going on. And then I realized, oh my God, I'm missing the first match on 0 Hour. But thankfully, someone told me that it wasn't really anything special. It was just a 12-minute fun match, but it was really nothing worth talking about. I caught the last 12 to 13 minutes of the Over the Budget Battle Royal. This was actually a very entertaining and fun match. There was a lot of familiar faces in this match for me. We had Brian Cage, I'm familiar with his work on Impact. We had Bully Ray, we had the Hurricane, we had Jordynne Grace, we had... Who else did we have? I know we had some more familiar faces. We had Colt Cabana. Who else? We had Cheeseburger. I remember seeing an interview with Cheeseburger. We had Cheeseburger as well. Now, as the match went on, I kept on thinking that it was either going to be Brian Cage or Tommy Dreamer. Tommy Dreamer was in there too. But Tommy Dreamer got eliminated, and then all of a sudden, Brian Cage gets taken out by Jordynne Grace, and then I kept on thinking, that's it, Jordynne Grace is winning this. In the back of my mind, I just kept on thinking, Jordynne Grace is winning this. Jordynne Grace is winning this. But she got eliminated by Bully Ray, and it came down to Bully Ray and Colt Cabana, or so we thought. Bully Ray took Colt Cabana out of it, and then a guy wearing a luchador mask, I can't remember the luchador's name. The independent fan's going to kill me. I do not remember the luchador's name, but he super kicked Bully Ray, and then when he took his mask off, it was Flip Gordon. I knew Flip Gordon was going to make his way onto the show some way, somehow. I didn't think it was going to be in the over-the-budget Battle Royal. But he ended up winning it. He eliminated Bully Ray, and he got a shot at Jay Lethal's Ring of Honor World Championship later on in the night. That was a very good way to get the crowd hyped for a new match. It was very entertaining. A lot of familiar faces. It had some very good wrestling as well. I want to talk about Brian Cage for a minute before we move on to the first official contest. Brian Cage is very underrated, if I do say so myself. Brian Cage is a beast in every sense of the word. He's exactly what the commentators call him, I believe. He's a machine. So Brian Cage, if they want to sign Brian Cage to NXT, I would not mind seeing Brian Cage in NXT in the near future, probably in the next year. But the first official contest for All In was Matt Cross versus Maxwell Jacobs Freeman, MJF. I did not know who either of these two were, but I will say that they have very innovative styles. This wasn't really all about the in-ring quality and putting on match of the century. This was mainly about showcasing their styles and really setting the pace for what was to be a great wrestling show and a very entertaining show at that. Both of them are very smooth. Matt Cross landed on his feet off of a corkscrew plancha, did his pose at the top of the ramp. This only went about 10 minutes. We had a leg drop DDT by MJF. We also had a cross-legged brainbuster right on the knee, which actually looked pretty brutal. But in the end, Matt Cross won with the shooting star press. This was a decent match for what it was. Again, it was mainly about showcasing their styles and really setting the pace. But it was a decent opening match. Not the best. I knew they weren't going to start the show off like Trent Seven, Tyler Bate in the Undisputed Era, or like Rollins and Ziggler. That's completely different. But they did set the pace with a nice 10-minute decent match. Matt Cross won. I was actually thinking that Maxwell Jacobs Freeman was going to win, but they ended up giving it to the veteran Matt Cross. Next, we had Christopher Daniels and Stephen Amell, and I think a lot of people were sleeping on this match. This match was actually confirmed I think 3 months in advance of All In. I'm not completely sure. I haven't been keeping track towards the build-up for All In. But Stephen Amell, I remember watching his match with Neville against Stardust and Wade Barrett at SummerSlam in 2015, and I vaguely recall that. I don't even remember what happened in that match. It was a 7-minute tag match. But all in all, Stephen Amell is actually a decent wrestler. I'm not going to lie. Stephen Amell is actually a decent wrestler. He took a lot of brutal bumps in this match. He did a lot of innovative moves. He did a lot of hard-hitting moves. This actually turned into a very good match for what it was. It went about 12 minutes. There was a point where Stephen Amell brought out a table or I think it might have been Christopher Daniels. But Christopher Daniels, I haven't seen a Christopher Daniels match in my life, just so you know. He brought out a table. He put it on the outside. He actually found his way onto the table, and Stephen Amell went for an elbow drop. Daniels moved out of the way, and Amell went through the table. We had a spot inside the ring where Stephen Amell was going like, come on, give it to me. Stephen Amell did a arm lock suplex where I actually thought he was going to get the win over Christopher Daniels, but Christopher Daniels kicked out and hit that triple jump moonsault, the best moonsault in the game, for the win on Stephen Amell. It was actually a good match for what it was. I am not going to lie, it wasn't the best. Amell, if he wanted to, he could very well pursue a career as a professional wrestler because he is actually pretty decent. The only thing he has to work on is his timing and his execution. He's a little sloppy on some moves. So, if he wants to, he's going to have to take some time, rejuvenate himself, keep his body in shape, and work on executing some of those moves a little more smoothly, if you know what I mean. Just a little more smoothly, and work on his timing. But other than that, he's a decent wrestler. He's a much better wrestler than Carmella, Alexa Bliss, and Jinder Mahal. That's for sure. I mean, it doesn't take much to be a better wrestler than Jinder Mahal. I mean, the best match he had was against Styles. But then again, how can you not have a bad match? How can you not have a good match with AJ Styles? Excuse me. But a good match for what it was. It did a very good job at getting Christopher Daniels to where he needs to be. And Stephen Amell actually looked pretty good. The women's match, I think it was a four corners special. Something called like that, but whatever it was called, it was a fatal four-way. Tessa Blanchard versus Chelsea Green versus Madison Rayne versus Britt Baker. This right here really showcased what women's wrestling really should be about. And there were a couple of sloppy spots in this match. There was a sloppy suicide dive by Chelsea Green, but I think she was just playing up to her character. By the way, she plays her character like a beast. Chelsea Green is fully invested in her character, and I have a lot of respect for her. She actually did a little woo-woo-woo tribute to her boyfriend, Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder was probably smiling ear to ear. But there were a lot of innovative spots. I think there was a Hurricane Rana off the top rope at one point. There was also a huge Canadian Destroyer by Chelsea Green, and I actually thought that might have been it. I think it was on Tessa Blanchard, but Tessa Blanchard kicked out. And then we had Madison Rayne, earlier on in the match, actually did a huge cross body, taking out all three women. So this was all over the place. A little sloppy spots here and there, but regardless, it turned out to be a great match. The crowd was appreciating these women, and Tessa Blanchard actually won with a incredibly slick and brutal hammerlock DDT that would make Andrade Cien Almas proud. And it looked like they botched the ending a little bit. I think Britt Baker didn't get there in time, but Tessa Blanchard ended up winning. I had Tessa Blanchard or Chelsea Green winning this match, but I actually thought Chelsea Green was going to win off that Canadian Destroyer, but they ended up giving the win to Tessa Blanchard. And afterwards, all four women embraced, and all four women really, just got their standing ovation. This match and Kairi Sane versus Shayna Baszler really made the entire year for women's wrestling. Those two matches, and maybe Charlotte and Asuka, those three matches were the best women's matches of the year so far. Then we had the NWA World Championship match between Cody and Nick Aldis. I actually thought that this would have been the main event, but props to Cody for not putting it on in the main event and really just letting other people have it. That really speaks to how selfless Cody really is. But this was not about stealing the show. This wasn't about stealing the show. This wasn't about putting on Match of the Year. This wasn't about captivating audiences worldwide. This was about telling a great story and building off of a legacy. That's what this match was mainly about. All in all, the match was very lackluster. They actually had to stop the match, and DDP actually did a diamond cutter to Daivari, I believe it was, and they kind of delayed the match so Cody could blade himself. At first, I thought he was really injured because the ref threw up the X sign, but Cody just did it to blade himself. It was all a work. We had some back and forth action, and Cody hit the beautiful disaster. Didn't get it. We actually had Nick Aldis doing an elbow drop off the top rope, and Brandy actually got in the way. Brandy got in the way of that elbow drop, and Brandy was taken out. They were chanting asshole at Nick Aldis. Later on, we had Cody doing the crossroads, and Cody nearly won, but Aldis kicked out. Some more back and forth action, and in the end, Cody stacked up Nick Aldis with his knees pinned down on Aldis' shoulders, and Cody is the new NWA World Champion. This was great storytelling right here, and it was really all about showcasing how Cody was willing to fight for his father's legacy. And I say, the moment and the atmosphere was great. The pop was huge. I actually saw multiple videos of the pop, and the entire crowd just stood up. Cody's over. But like I said, not about stealing the show. It's about telling a good story and building off Cody's father's legacy. All in all, the match was very lackluster. Very lackluster. It was probably the weakest match on the show. I'm not going to lie to you. Probably the weakest match on the show, but still great storytelling nonetheless. Congratulations to Cody. Adam Page versus Joey Janela. Joey Janela is the same man who fought Christopher Ford on December 28th, 2014 in an independent show, and probably one of the best independent show matches I've ever seen, because I was there live. That went to a double countout. So I knew Joey Janela was going to do something crazy. Adam Page and Joey Janela, this was a brutal match. This was a brutal match, and Janela nearly killed himself twice in this match. This is the same guy that jumped off a building through barbed wire glass in the back of a pickup truck. There was a point where they set up a ladder on the Cracker Barrel, and Adam Page did a torture rack neck breaker to Joey Janela. Later on in the match, we actually had Penelope Ford getting involved. She put Adam Page on the table on the outside, and Joey Janela did a huge elbow drop through the table. Crowds chanting, holy shit. Now we get to the stage. Janela and Ford set up two tables, and Adam Page takes advantage, power bombs Joey Janela off the stage, but Joey Janela only hit the first table, and the first table only broke halfway and then flipped over. Janela, I thought, snapped his neck. I thought Janela might have snapped his neck clearly in half. I have no idea how he continued. Props to Joey Janela. But in the end, Hangman Page defeated Joey Janela with that reverse pile driver head first through the table. Adam Page wins. And afterwards, Joey Ryan returned from the dead, surrounded by people in inflatable dicks. I got to see Joey Ryan, for the very first time, do a dick flip on Adam Page and watch Adam Page be escorted out of the building by a bunch of inflatable dicks. I don't know what to say. That was probably it was so stupid, but that's what made it so funny. It was so stupid, but it made it so funny. Next match was a great wrestling match and a very entertaining match at that. We had Jay Lethal versus Flip Gordon for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Jay Lethal bringing back Black Machismo. Brandy Rhodes, she came out with Flip Gordon as well. I actually thought Flip Gordon was going to win this. Not going to lie. Since how they built him up. But these two went back and forth. I want to say, Flip Gordon is a very smooth competitor. He's very smooth in the ring. Every move that he executed in that match was done to absolute perfection. Not a single botch. I would love to see Flip Gordon versus Ricochet down the line. That right there. If Ricochet and Flip Gordon have faced off before on the independent scene, please direct me to that match, because I would love to see it. There was a point where Flip Gordon was hulking up like Hulk Hogan. We had Jay Lethal doing the elbow drops like Randy Savage. Flip Gordon actually did a reverse Samoan drop, shooting star press, and then corkscrew moonsault all in one fluid motion, and I thought Flip Gordon might have won. But Jay Lethal kicked out, and he was able to hit the lethal injection, that handspring cutter, to win. Afterwards, Bully Ray came out and tried to attack Flip Gordon for, ruining the over-the-budget Battle Royal for him. But Colt Cabana came out to make the save, and they did a triple powerbomb through the table to, do a little feel-good moment there. But all in all, very entertaining match, very good match. I thought Flip Gordon was going to win, but I'm not mad, because it ended up being a good match. Kenny Omega versus Pentagon Jr. I actually thought that this was going to be the main event, because how can you not put Kenny Omega in the main event? But after what we got in the main event, I'm not going to really complain. The main event was rushed. That was one of the mistakes. They kind of overdid it with some of the matches. The main event was rushed, but regardless, it was still a great match. But Kenny Omega versus Pentagon Jr., this originally was going to be the match of the night, before we had the match following this. But Omega and Pentagon Jr. put on an absolute war. Omega and Pentagon Jr., there was back and forth. I think Omega delivered like 7 V-triggers. Pentagon Jr. delivered a package pile driver to Omega on the apron to a point where I think Omega was dead. I thought Omega was dead. I thought we witnessed a live murder. But Pentagon Jr. and Omega continued the match. There was a huge reverse Rana to Pentagon Jr. in which Pentagon kicked out. There was a spinning package pile driver. Omega had Pentagon Jr. up in the package pile driver position and spun him around before dropping him right on the point of his head. In the end, this turned out to be a great match, a fantastic match, and Kenny Omega, he won with the one-winged angel. Omega, he's doing some big things. He's doing some of the best work of his career, and I think that Kenny Omega, he without a doubt deserves that PWI 500 accolade of number 1 in the world. There's no one better than him. But afterwards, Chris Jericho, dressed as Pentagon Jr., the lights flickered on and off, and Chris Jericho out of nowhere, dressed as Pentagon Jr. Jericho was dressed as Pentagon Jr. He delivered 3 code breakers to Kenny Omega and challenged Kenny Omega on the Jericho Cruise. After a great match with Pentagon Jr., I actually thought Pentagon Jr. might have, was going to win this match at some point because of that second package pile driver in the ring, but Kenny Omega ended up coming back and winning like a beast that he is. Jericho attacked, and he challenged Omega for the Jericho Cruise. So anyone who's going on the Jericho Cruise, you're in for a treat. The next match. This match perhaps had some of the best storytelling that I think I have ever seen since Gargano and Almas at TakeOver Philadelphia. I don't know if this was intended, but if there's one thing that came out of this match, it really showcased that Marty Scurll is a phenomenal wrestler. And if you think that Marty Scurll can't wrestle, I've seen some people say that Marty Scurll can't wrestle. They must have been dropped on their head. If you think Marty Scurll can't wrestle, you must have been dropped on your head as an infant. You must be the biggest idiot walking the planet today. Watch a match like that, and you're going to say that Marty Scurll can't wrestle. He put on the match of the night. I was ready to say that the women's match was the match of the night. I was ready to say that the street fight was the match of the night. I was ready to say that Omega versus Pentagon was the match of the night. And out of nowhere, I've never seen Marty Scurll wrestle in my life. Marty Scurll putting on probably a 4.5 star match with Kazuchika Okada. Probably even a 5-star match. Probably even a 5-star match with Kazuchika Okada. And people are saying that he can't wrestle. All this right here, AllIn 2018, the crowning achievement of AllIn was not just Cody. Was not just that main event. Was not just Omega and Jericho locking horns again. Was not just Flip Gordon finally booking himself at AllIn. Marty Scurll proved that he is a main event level superstar. Fighting someone like Kazuchika Okada, bringing Okada to the brink of defeat, and nearly tapping out Okada. He did the Rainmaker on Okada. I thought that was it. He brought a custom-made umbrella that said AllIn. Wow. I've never seen a match on the independent scene that had such good storytelling. Kazuchika Okada won with 2 Rainmakers. But Marty Scurll walked out of that match a main event level superstar. I wanted Scurll to win. In my heart, I wanted Scurll to win, but in my head, I kept on thinking Okada. Okada won, but I'm not even mad. What a match. What a match that was. And if that match is not going to be in your top 10, not just for WWE, not just for Ring of Honor, but top 10 matches altogether in the year, then there's something wrong with you. That right there was a classic. May have been too long. It may have been just a little too long. I'm not going to lie. It may have been just a little too long, but still a classic. We all know the show's going to have flaws. The only show that I've seen that had no flaws was TakeOver New Orleans and TakeOver Brooklyn 4. Those were the only shows that had no flaws. Well, TakeOver Brooklyn 4 had one flaw. EC3 losing. But regardless, that was still a great show. We knew the show was going to have flaws. This was one of them. The match may have been a little too long, but it had great storytelling. And it was a great match by the end of it. The main event. And a lot of people were wondering why it felt so rushed. It only went 12 minutes, mainly because of the fact that the pay-per-view company had it till 11. And they kind of ran a little short. And if it didn't, we probably would have gotten a 22-minute match by the end of this thing. But regardless, it was still a great match. It was probably the best sprint match I think I've ever seen. They were flying everywhere, doing twists, doing triangle moonsaults. Kota Ibushi and Rey Mysterio actually locked up for a little bit. That was a phenomenal moment right there in its own right. I would love to see Ibushi and Rey Mysterio one-on-one. We had 619. They went for the West Coast pop. We had Bandido actually broke up a pin with the Young Bucks after, they delivered 5 super kicks in a row. In the end, Kota Ibushi and the Young Bucks won with the Meltzer driver for the 1, 2, 3 with just seconds to spare before they went off the air. And that was an unintentional rhyme right there. Unintentional rhyme right there. But all in all, again, no pun intended. All in all, AllIn was a very good and entertaining show. It was a very good, entertaining wrestling show. Had some great wrestling, had some entertaining moments, and again, you take away the middle fingers and you take away the adult content and the explicit content, this show could be just like NXT for everyone. Independent wrestling is a very beautiful thing, and I cannot wait until AllIn 2. I think that Cody and the Young Bucks, they really outdid themselves. To say AllIn did not live up to expectations, that's just pure idiocy. That's just being a moron. That's just being a delusional dweeb to say that AllIn didn't live up to expectations. Great show. Great show. Very entertaining show. Had its flaws. Every show does. But regardless, it was still a great show by the end. And props to them again for selling out in under 30 minutes. Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks are to be taken seriously. Independent wrestling is to be taken seriously. And regardless of all that, that is the rewind for All In 2018. I would like to thank each and every one of you who tuned into this video. Do not forget to like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at TheDJStorms. I do have some news. Number one, tomorrow on 46 Chestnut Street in Rutherford, New Jersey, the very same man who was on the Eye of the Storm, Christopher Ford, also known as Crowbar, he is hosting the Rescue Mania 2 preview show, where he will set up a live ring in the middle of the street, and there will be multiple matches. It is free to attend. I will be there. The DJ Storms brand is going to be there. It starts at 1, so be sure you get in a car, get your merchandise ready, and, get your appetites ready for some good wrestling. Now, Rescue Mania 2 will be taking place on September 23rd, 2018. That is going to be at Felician University. I believe it starts at 7. Do not forget to get ready for that. I'm going to be there as well. And third, on September 16th, at the Tilted Kilt Pub and Eatery in Wayne, New Jersey, my partnership and my boys from Wrestling Express, Tommy McGrogan and Glenn Davidson, shout out to them. They are hosting yet another meetup for anyone free to attend at the Tilted Kilt Pub and Eatery, where they will be screening Hell in a Cell. We will be watching Hell in a Cell from the Tilted Kilt Pub and Eatery. I will be there. Tommy McGrogan, Glenn Davidson, they're going to be there. If you want to come out, come and hang, come and talk to me, come and talk to McGrogan. We will be there, and we are looking to have a great time once again. I was there for Extreme Rules, and I'm going to be there for Hell in a Cell as well. So this month, actually a pretty busy month for the DJ Storms brand. But regardless, thank you everyone again. I'm DJ Storms. This has been the Rewind for All In, and I will see you tomorrow.